All set to go?
It is preparing. 1 second. Okay, you are live.
Great. Alder West, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Item 0744-21, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason seeking approval to enter into a development incentive agreement with Hobby Property LLC regarding the redevelopment of the site located at or near 233 Lake Avenue. The recommendation is to approve the item as discussed in closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded from Alder Coe. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, when the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
Aye.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Mikma,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Coe,
Aye.
Alder Jones,
Aye.
Alder Tate II,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
Aye.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Alder West, did you have any other items requested for separate consideration?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay, please go to that item.
All right, item number 0749-1, communication sponsored by Alder Peterson recommending that fully vaccinated non-represented city of Racine employees who test positive for COVID-19 shall be granted paid administrative leave during any isolation period required by the July 29th, 2021 race deadline. Racine employee COVID-19 temporary policy or any amended or successor Racine employee policy. Physical note, because paid administrative leave will be granted, there will be no payout to employees and no other costs except to provide staffing during any absence during any employee's isolation period. Recommendation, move to approve.
Motion to approve. Alder Peterson, would you like to make the second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion on the item? Alder Perez.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like a little bit more explanation. Before we talked about represented employees having this to be a bargaining issue, but I'm concerned that this is more of a push on our part to push vaccinations on our employees, because if we're saying that we're going to pay for the non-represented employees who get COVID, who are already vaccinated, who get sick, and make it part of something regular, it seems kind of unfair to the other employees as well, considering that the police and fire department are the only departments that handle people constantly. That is their jobs. And even though they are representative, some of them are vaccinated, some are not. Nonetheless, if they get sick, then they would have to use their sick time or some other issues. I don't believe this is a fair assessment on the value of what we have with our police and fire. And I'd like an explanation from maybe Alderman Peterson as to what is happening behind this, since I was not able to be a participant in the committee discussion on this. Could I get more information, please?
I can direct your question to Alder Peterson, or Alder Peterson, if you prefer, I could have the city attorney explain the process for a policy like this being covered by representative. It's up to you, Alder Peterson, how you'd like to proceed.
I can speak to the reasoning behind it, but I was not at the committee meeting itself, so either way would be fine with me. I guess I can speak for a second, and if Attorney Letney has something to add, that would be fantastic.
Great, go right ahead.
Okay, my reasoning behind it is, as we push to have people vaccinated, I find it hard to penalize people who have chosen to be vaccinated and have a breakout case of COVID and make them use their sick time. it seems like the breakout cases are increasing in number at this time. And like I said, no different than all the other incentives we've given employees to be vaccinated. And the reason I said non-represented individuals is because we cannot mandate or we cannot pass policy for represented individuals. I believe police and fire, I am hoping this follows through with talks with police and fire that they obtain the same thing. There are a number of, I believe the fire department's at 70% vaccination rate right now, and dealing with them as well as the police department dealing with the majority of the in-person contact with individuals, especially the fire department. It's not fair that somebody who contacts COVID, especially if they're vaccinated, has to use their sick time. So that kind of was my reasoning behind it.
Well said. Scott, or Attorney Letney, would you maybe make a distinction between non-represented and represented in matters such as these?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alder Peterson, explained it, frankly, and what he said is that the Common Council can impose policy consistent with the law as to non-represented employees. The only represented employees the city has are the protective services, so police and fire, that are members of the 4 different bargaining units. So anything that differs from the contracts the city has with the bargaining units would have to be bargained for. I have had, at the direction of the mayor and city administrator, and then the finance and personnel committee, discussions with the police and fire unions. I will tell you those discussions are ongoing, and this is, I don't want to go too far into the discussions in detail, but this is within the subject matters that we've talked about with police and fire. We just haven't come to a final agreement yet.
Thank you. Other questions for, or other comments or discussion on this item? Alder Pete.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out that many non-represented employees are in direct day-to-day contact with represented people, and that we also have a legal liability and obligation to those people, which gets to why we should push this amendment or motion.
Thank you,
Because
Alder
we
Pete.
have a legal liability here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Pete. Other discussion on the item before us? Alder Lemke.
Yeah, I would just briefly speak in favor of having vacation, or not vacation, but like sick time that is, I'm phrasing this wrong. Let me back up. I would speak in
Administratively,
administrative leave for folks who have been vaccinated, because I do think that it's not only police and fire who, run into the public and or their peers. I think if they've gone through the trouble of getting vaccinated, they're clearly like trying to, not pass COVID. So I don't think we should punish people who've gone through the work or whatever of getting the vaccine. And like they said, this has been brought up with police and fire, and, that has its own process that the city council is not directly involved in. But this is, I think, is just an effort to make something parallel to what is being at least discussed, whatever comes out of it with police and fire. We, like they said, final agreement isn't reached. But if they're discussing something like this, I think we're just trying to basically make it parallel for the people who don't fall under those kinds of agreements. So I support this.
thank you, Alder Lemke. President Tate.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to confirm, was Alder Perez's question answered satisfactory? I don't remember if we checked back in with him. to see if the question was met.
Alder Perez, did you have a follow-up, or did that clarify the answer to your question?
Yeah, clarify, but I have a follow-up if that's okay, Your Honor. So it's my
Um,
understanding
sure.
then that the police and fire are on this discussion that has to be separate because it's part of their bargaining responsibilities, insurance, and how leave is played out. Is that correct?
Again, I'll direct your question to Scott Lenny to clarify that specifically.
Because this is a work rule imposed, the Common Council's policy with regard to the negative COVID status, because that's a working condition, the city is required to bargain the impact of that. So we've been, I have been doing that with help from the Human Resources Department and another one of my attorneys, again, at the direction of the mayor, the city administrator, and the Finance and Personnel Committee. So we have been doing that.
So does that mean? Okay, I understand.
Perez?
Your Honor, may I go on?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. So does this mean then that if an employee is not vaccinated and gets COVID, he has to use his sick leave, but if he's vaccinated and gets COVID, we're going to put him on administrative leave?
Attorney Lenny?
This specific item tonight relates to non-represented employees. So yes, city employees have sick leave as some of the benefits. This would provide that. So there's a policy that's in place that the mayor has put in place. There's been a number of employee policies over the last 18 months. This one is based on the Public Health Department's recommendations that if somebody is positive for COVID, they need to isolate for 10 days from either a positive test or the onset of symptoms. So what this would say is somebody that's already vaccinated that has to go through that required isolation period would be on this paid administrative leave and not have to use what they would normally use if they're sick, which is their sick time.
How does this fit in relationship to what we passed previously that said that if they didn't get their COVID vaccination, they would be in violation of the policy and after so many times would be eligible to be fired? What's the relationship between the two?
Thank you, Alderman. So the resolution the council passed, I think last council meeting, which was, I believe it was item 690-21, was not a requirement that people get vaccinated. It was a requirement that people have a negative COVID status every week. They have to demonstrate that, but there are a few exceptions. One of which is if a person is vaccinated, they just need to present their proof of vaccination to Human Resources when they're fully vaccinated, and then they're not required to demonstrate their negative COVID status. So it's not a vaccination requirement, it's a negative COVID status requirement.
Alder Perez?
Okay, so in relationship to the different standards that we're using for people who are in fact vaccinated and non-vaccinated, being that they're not represented, is it then fair for us to make some use their leave and then some not use their leave because they've chosen not to get vaccinated and get sick in the process?
Attorney Lenny?
Well, my understanding that this is intended to be an incentive. You know, I think generally speaking, the public health science says that being vaccinated is better than not being vaccinated in attempting to prevent COVID. I don't want to pretend I'm a scientist or a medical official. I'm not. That's just what I'm told by people I trust. So again, irrespective of what illness a person may have, I mean, if somebody catches the flu, which is a communicable disease, employees have sick time as part of their benefits. So they would be required, if they have the flu, to stay home while they're symptomatic and use their sick time. COVID is, obviously it's special right now, but people do have that sick leave benefit where we earn or we're granted 1 day of sick leave per month. And those of us that don't use much sick leave have lots of sick leave built up that we could use for these purposes. So this is just this specific case, and I think in part it's to incentivize the COVID vaccine, but it's to recognize that people that have taken the vaccine, if they still get sick, then in this one specific instance, the city will just provide administrative time rather than people using their sick time or their vacation time.
Alder
So,
Perez?
yes, sir, thank you. I understand the reason for the incentivizing. I myself have gotten the vaccinations as well as having been sick, so I understand the value of it. But I still think that we have been encumbered with so many things for our health in the interest of the public good, that just forcing then people or giving an extra benefit to someone because they did go along with what you would say, maybe the science, the good science that the department put out or the CDC put out, which although it may be good, it's still very controversial. I don't think it's fair to the rest of the employees as well. You either use your own leave or nobody uses their own leave if they get COVID. I think that's a better way to handle that. So moving forward, I'd like to recognize that the incentive is an amazing thing, but it's really not you give an incentive to someone who might say, hey, I want to donate to the United Way. But when you're talking about an immunization that goes into your body, that's a totally different thing. And so I would suggest, or I would say, I'm not going to vote on behalf of this. I think it's really a travesty that we're politicizing it this way and making it beneficial for employees, because if you're not, and you're choosing because of whatever reason not to get vaccination, and then you get sick, you have to use your own time. When if you went ahead and got your vaccination and you get sick, you're not using your own time. I don't think that's just right. Well, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alder Perez. Alder Lemke?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate my support for this. People who are not vaccinated have the option to take their, sick time. They're not going to be unpaid somehow. It's paid sick time. I think this recognizes that people who have had the vaccine, which is not at all a controversial science, and has recently been, the emergency authorization is no longer in effect. Now it is a fully approved vaccine. And, as a society, we have tons of requirements for work. And I think the idea that COVID vaccination is being politicized by people who want vaccination is ridiculous. I mean, to go to school, your kid has to have a chickenpox vaccine. That's not a political thing. That's never been a political thing. It's so that you don't infect the entire city, of children. Recently there was a huge debate about masking, for example, in our, this is not vaccination, but masking, at Fort Atkinson, and a child died. And only after a child died did they say, hey, maybe masking is a good idea. I think that's terrible science. I think that's terrible public policy. I think waiting for someone to die on our staff is an awful idea. And, it's not controversial. That said, I understand that like a vaccine is going in your body. So while it is not in any medical or public health world, which I am a professional in, it is not controversial at all in any circle I am in. And I talk to doctors by the dozens every day in my job. And that said, I respect people who don't want to get it. If you don't want to get it, that is fine. That is your choice. But then you have to demonstrate that you are safe to be in the public and safe to interact with people. And, they have paid leave. It's not like we're taking away unpaid leave. We're not undoing something. You can get sick with COVID, not get vaccinated, and take your paid time off and you'll just be paid to have your time off. We are not a city that is forcing people to get vaccines. If you want to be a city that is forcing people to get vaccines, we can model Milwaukee, right? You don't get to work if you don't have the vaccine. We're not doing that because we want our employees to have a choice. I want our employees to have a choice. I want people to feel like when they have a vaccination, they've chosen the best thing for their whatever, work, family, life. And so that's why we are still providing choices and incentives. The idea that we're just forcing this down people's throat, we can do that. Hospitals are doing that. Different places and universities are doing that. Different city governments are doing that, where everyone is just flatly forced to get a vaccine or get fired. That's not what we're doing. If you do not want to have the COVID vaccine, you do not have to have the COVID vaccine to work for the city of Racine. You just have to get a test. And even if you get sick, you have paid time off, paid. There's no unpaid time off. This is just an extra incentive for people who've already chosen to protect the public.
Thank you, Alder Lemke. Alder Coe.
I just wanted to say, let's call the question.
Okay, request has been made to call the question. I see no other hands up. That being said, when the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
No.
Alder Taft,
Absolutely, yes.
Alder Mi'kmaq,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Coe,
Aye.
Alder Jones,
Aye.
Alder Tate II,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion, Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
thank you. Alder Peterson,
Aye.
Alder Horton,
Abstain.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
and Alder Pete.
Aye.
12 ayes, 1 no.
Wasn't there an abstention in there as well?
Yes, I apologize. 1 abstain.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Alder West, back to the Finance and Personnel Report. Did you have any other items for separate consideration?
I do not, Your Honor.
Then without objection, we will put the remainder of those items on the consent agenda and move on to the Public Works and Services Committee report by Alder Jones. Alder Jones, did you have any requests for separate consideration on your report?
Thank you, Mayor Mason. No, I do not.
Okay, well then without objection, we will put the Public Works and Services Committee agenda items on the consent agenda. We will then move
Thank you.
on. Thank you, Alder Jones. We will then move on to Alder Coe for the Public Safety and Licensing Committee report. Alder Coe, do you have any items for separate consideration?
Yes, we do.
Okay, please proceed with the first one.
First item, 610-21, communications, submitting an application for a Class B and Class C fermented malt beverage and wine license for Paravasis Sports Bar and Grill LLC, doing business as Paravasis Sports Bar and Grill, located at 1743 State Street. Crystal Zahler, agent, 8th District. This came back to us a couple of times, and last time it was asked to be approved. I'll speak on it later, but I'm going to ask Alderwoman Caprillion to speak on the item first.
Okay, well, before anybody can speak on it, somebody needs to make
Okay.
in support of it and a second. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry, I missed it. Alder West, did you make the motion? Alder Peterson, sorry, is there a second? on the motion? Seconded, I'm sorry, I missed the second. Seconded by Alder Horton.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Alder Caprillion, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would like to speak to the motion. Thank you for recognizing me.
I'm going to ask this city council body to please bear with me. I know that you all don't serve on the Public Safety and Licensing Committee, but I'm going to fill you in on some information to help you out. I'm going to ask that you vote against this motion. So please vote no. And this is the reason why. First, realize that this came before you as a denial. It came back on August 17th or to this body and then deferred back. Not sure why that happened. Unfortunately, I was not present at that meeting, and it is very concerning to me that this has been approved. And now let me give you some background information why this should be an absolute denial. And this is I'm going to save you because there's one other item on the public safety and licensing agenda that is attached to this one. So it's kind of the same reasoning. So I will reference that at the other item. So this, for this establishment, this individual, Crystal Zahler, I believe is how she pronounces her last name, she was a licensed agent for GRC. So those of you who have been staying abreast on things that are happening in the city, GRC was one of those problem establishments. I am going to read to you one of the tools that is given to us on public safety and licensing, which is from the police. They give us a police report for the liquor establishment. Okay, so this is lots of the reasons why we should be denying this. Number one, on February 27th, there was no bar license on display. You have to post your licensing, which is one of the requirements that is by Wisconsin state statute. It was not posted on February 27th. On March 13th, a bartender working did not have a liquor license, nor anyone else in the establishment had a liquor license, which again is against state statute. Still no license on display at that time as well. On March 26th, there was a distress call for in the neighborhood. The streets were blocked, neighbors, homes in the area were all blocked as well. It took an hour and a half for police to clear the area. There was a lot of resistance in that area. No bartender there had a liquor or a license to serve. None that were working. So again, a continual problem. Then there was a tavern check a few days later. Again, no bartender working. There was no licensed bartender on premise working, only a DJ. He said it was for a private party. And there was a lady behind the bar, but she said she wasn't serving liquor. However, the establishment was open. It was unlocked. It was open for business. I'm going to read to you after I'm done with this, some of the state statutes that is not permitted. Okay. And then again, there was no sign up on the establishment as well. Then we have just a few days later, there was a tavern check. Now there was 90 people that were in roughly 90 people in the establishment. This was beyond capacity this was the COVID restriction time. Then you have on May 2nd, all squads were called to the area, again, clearing out this area for an hour and a half. No other squads were able to go to any other calls of service that evening. Then we have on May 9th, you have the same thing. You have 9 officers now called to the area and 45 minutes to clear that area. There was tons of resistance. So some things that you don't know if you don't serve on that committee, but we are privy to this information. A premise licensed to sell alcohol. All the premises that are licensed to sell alcohol may not be open for business without a licensed operator being present. One thing. All liquor and beer licenses must be framed and posted in the room where the business is being carried out. You heard me multiple times, it was not done. Another thing that you might want to consider when looking at this vote is here in the city, we have a quota for liquor establishments. So right now the quota exists on a number of Class B license. Every municipality is issued based on the aggregate of several calculations as set forth by Wisconsin statute. And as of July of 2019, Racine's quota is 128. We are at that quota. I want you to think about that. If we are going to issue, not only for this, but another agenda item that is with the same individuals, there's two individuals, they're splitting off. One is going to open up the GRC again, and the other one is going to open up a brand new establishment. Are these the type of liquor establishments that we want in our community? We have given them a fair chance to run a liquor establishment. Now they are causing stress on the community. We are now going to cap that out for any available liquor license to be for somebody who has not had that chance yet and have been able to prove themselves good and a good partner for the city. So please consider denying this recommendation that has come before the Public Safety and Licensing Committee.
Thank you, Alder Caprillion. Alder Coe.
Yeah, I want to add, so if anybody is familiar with the site, it's over by the roundabout over on Spring Street. It was a little place called Tony's Restaurant. I don't think really ever got up and going, but it has 15 parking spaces. The backside's on a dead end road and there's no parking on State Street over there. And my biggest concern, this place says that the capacity is 80 people and there's room for 15 cars to park there. My concern, that's going to make that roundabout more dangerous because people are going to park right up as close as they can. So that's my biggest reason why I want this thing to say no. So that's it.
Thank you, Alder Coe. Just looking for other people wishing to speak on this item. Alder Taft.
I just had a question for folks that are in the Public Licensing Committee. Can you, and I read the documentation, but what was the rationale behind the approval this time? Like, is anybody on the Public Licensing Committee can speak to that? Because it got approved in committee second time. So I'm just curious. You don't have to, but I'm just curious if anybody's willing to.
Is there anybody who voted in favor or spoke in favor of moving the item forward on public safety and licensing who would like to speak to the item? Alder Horton? Alder Horton, you're muted.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. So this item came a couple times to the committee, and you hear about the parking, you hear about the split relationship between the two owners, and basically when we're talking about that, another item that might come up on the agenda, it was also approved. So I like to be fair, I like to be honest, and I understand where some of my colleagues are coming from. And when people invest into these places and they invest into this and they have the good neighbors report, I think that's the moment that people should speak against, or it should come back from the departments that this is something that they don't want to open up in the city. Me, myself, if I invest in anything in the city, whether it's $50 or $50,000, I would like to know that up front before I get into the process of investing my money into the city only for it to be denied. So this is something that, there were some restrictions. They were asked about different hours. Could you close at a different time? The person that has said that she was running the bar, she had no problem with that. They talked about the crowd sizing. Yeah, Chairman Cole, he's right around the roundabout. It's right there in the Smart area. I don't know what the other establishment done. I don't think it was a bar. I think it was a restaurant. So I was in favor of it that night, and I'll still be in favor for it tonight.
Alder Taft, you technically still have
Thanks.
the floor.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. Alder Caprillion.
Thank you again for this opportunity. Another thing that I would like to mention is everyone that comes before Public Safety and Licensing proposed to us their idea, and they're enthusiastic about having a liquor establishment. And we're just as excited for them because we love, just like Alderman Horton has said, for them to invest in our community. And we go into this agreement in good faith. And unfortunately, in this situation, it backfired on us. The neighborhood has suffered. We had Lieutenant Webb, who was part of public safety and licensing, who really was frustrated with this particular establishment. And so that was when it was originally getting proposed at our first go round. So more frustrated with us, mind you, okay? Even for considering the possibility of opening them back up. And I also want to keep in mind, so this particular item that is before us that Crystal Zahler is attached to, she was the liquor agent for that establishment. Let me define what that exactly means, because what she had claimed at the Public Safety and Licensing is that she had a silent partner. And that's the one who's coming up for the other item, which is against state statute. We don't give you, as a liquor agent, that type of authority to go ahead and undermine that and then give somebody else that responsibility. That is your responsibility. So keep that in mind when we are agreeing to approve these individuals who already proved their way of doing business with us as a city and as a partner. So let me just read what it is to be an agent. So I apologize. I have to find it on my page here. It is somebody that is the person who will be responsible for overseeing that the alcohol beverage regulations are complied with. So all things aspect of that liquor establishment. So under that time, she has said it wasn't her. So I would like to open up my own place to try this out. But she was the one named in there as the agent. And so please go against this motion to approve.
Alder Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alder Caprillion, you've done an excellent job with your research with the statutes. I just have one question. You mentioned, I think, that there has been detrimental harm to the neighborhood. So are we implying that the neighborhood has been in turmoil because of the prior management of the establishment?
May I speak on it? Thank you for that. That's a great question. So the fortunate thing that I have is some history on this Public Safety and Licensing Committee, and I've seen over time. And what the police department probably is the person who could, or the department that could speak a little bit better than I can on that. However, what the message that we often get is that there's stress to the neighborhood. A lot of times what happens is that you'll get neighborhoods who will start responding. They'll get a call out that there's going to be a liquored establishment in the area, and they are absolutely opposed to it just because over and over again, they're having these issues come up in the area. So if you have your home, your property, your lawn in front of your house full of people at night that are, loitering and just being loud and causing stress, where you have police trying to move them out, you now are compromising their safety and also their peace. So they no longer are being good partners. So that's really what I reference. And that's really what Lieutenant Webb talked about on public safety and licensing the first time this came up. He no longer was with us the second time it came back to us.
Thank you, Alder. Yes, thank you, Alder Caprillion. That excellent answer. I think it covered it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Pete. Alder West.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a general question. Obviously, this bar is located in the 8th District. And is that correct or no?
Alder West, I need to rely on you to say it is. Okay, yes. According to the chair, it is in the 8th District, yes.
Okay. So I was just wondering, Alder Caprillion noted that Lieutenant Webb had some complaints or issues about that bar. And I have to go on record by saying that I have never heard of any such thing from the constituents in this district, nor have I received anything from Lieutenant Webb. So
Can I speak to that?
But,
Yes, you.
Well, so
Okay.
Alder West, you still have the floor, although you
All right.
initially posed it as a question. So,
Yeah, I'll yield for them to answer.
okay, Alder Coe.
Okay, well, the reason why this hasn't come up, this hasn't been open. This place, even when it was the restaurant, it never was a problem because it really never was open. This is people moving from Douglas Avenue, now moving over to this area, to this place. That's why, okay.
Okay, so we're saying that they were a nuisance at their other property and they're gonna bring that nuisance over to this new facility, correct?
That's what's, because the way she ran the other place, right?
All right.
My
that's the
thing
clear-
was
Yep, that is the clarity that I needed because like I said, I'm in this district and I live directly down the street. I was just gonna say I haven't seen anybody there as of lately, so I'm like, where did the problem start or when? So I definitely understand your concerns and questions that you may have with this new applicant or existing applicant, and I thank you for your research. Thank you.
Thank you. That was an important question, Alder West. Thank you. I'm just looking through the other screens. Are there any other members of council wishing to speak on this item? Alder West, your hand is up. Is it still up from before or no? Okay. Alder Lemke, you have the floor.
Can you just clarify, just because I think it's like a double negative, what a yes vote means and what a no vote means?
It's a great question. So the motion before us is to approve the liquor license for this site. So that is the recommendation that came out of committee. So a vote for yes is to approve the liquor license. A vote no would be to deny the liquor license.
Thank you.
And I'm just looking for Attorney Letney to affirm that I'm phrasing that correctly.
A vote yes would be to approve. A vote no would be not to approve. It would not be to deny. There could be a successor motion to deny if the motion to approve is not, well, action has to be taken one way or the other. So, so at this moment, the motion is to approve and the yes vote is to approve.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarity.
That's an important clarification. President Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the one thing I'm asking about is I'm hearing a very compelling and forceful argument against, but somehow this is still before us. So I would appreciate perhaps if the other committee members who are supporting this to get to us might speak up for their position, because so far I'm not hearing why we got to this place as far as why this is before us. And I think, if your recommendation to the council was like, we should move forward with this, I ought to hear what that rationale is, because I'm not hearing much of that in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Tate. Alder Perez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Part of the recommendation was because we believe in giving people a chance to redeem themselves, the ones that voted for it. Myself and Alder Horton believe that moving forward, they knew the circumstances. There's nothing going on there now, and we can always bring them back if there's an issue. But we didn't think it was appropriate to deny. Moving forward, we had a commitment of better control and following of the laws, and we're hoping that that happens. And now, if that doesn't happen, then we can easily bring them back before the committee. So that wasn't the issue. In this particular case, we thought that redemption was a possibility, and moving forward would have been a good thing for this business, and in particular, the commitment that they made to us to move. I know that Alder Karpelian said that they were not acting in good faith before, but we do that for a lot of people, and we do that for many other crimes as well, when people don't follow the law. In this case, control of their property or posting of a license. It seems like there was another issue we had where we voted no, some of us, because they basically did not let the police department do their investigation or let them in the property. That I can understand. But with the issues that were brought up, I didn't feel that they were significant enough to deny a license. That's all. Thank you.
Alder Peterson?
Yes, I shared some of the concerns Alderman Caprillion had. What I guess turned my vote from a no to a yes was the fact that they were willing to amend their hours to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. As most people know, the majority of the issues that are raised at bars are well past midnight. So this is being passed with an amended hours with them closing on Friday and Saturday night at midnight. So while I share Alder Capillion's concerns, this to me was the tipping point for my vote.
Thank you, Alder Peterson. Alder Lemke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think there's some pretty significant concerns. I think, I was for quite some time on the Public Safety and Licensing Committee, and I know that we had Lieutenant Webb advising us, and he was really a great, resource in telling us how much time and energy and effort goes into working with these types of situations. And I know the first thing people always try to do in the police department is, not just come in, cite people, whatever, it's to help people comply. So, there are times when legitimately some of the laws about running a business are confusing. And so I know they go in there, they do education, they remind people about, what the requirements are. And so I appreciate that, but it sounds like the police department were there, I wasn't tallying, but it sounded like at least 3 times to tell people they need to put up a license, which, putting a piece of paper on the wall is a pretty low bar. And also though, I have, and that's like, whatever, it's a lot of paperwork. I get it. Who knows who's talking to who about what? But I think it's pretty obvious that you have to have a license to be a bartender. And it sounds like they reminded people that on a number of occasions. And then, if somebody is confused, if there's some sort of miscommunication, I think our police department is trying to gain compliance and say, hey, this is what's required. If you didn't know, now you know. But this sounds like there's just people who do not have any sort of license, just handing out liquor in the city. And it seems like it was definitely more than once. And I think, it's one thing to say, oops, you forgot to put the paper on the wall. It's another thing to say there was no one at all who had been through any of the requirements, any of the background checks, any of the whatever. We require background checks for people who don't know. In order to serve liquor in the city, we require background checks for good reason. To serve liquor in the city, I think not having anyone there that had any sort of license whatsoever is, I don't think that that's a misunderstanding. I think that's a pretty flagrant violation and brings up really substantial concerns about, like, if they don't have people there who are licensed, why do we even have licenses? It's just literally just people, anyone giving out liquor in a restaurant or establishment. And again, if it's one time, or if there's some misunderstanding or whatever, I get that, but that's not what this sounds like to me.
Alder McCarthy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question that maybe would be directed to the chair of the committee in the long run here. So it appears there was issues potentially with this this applicant in their previous role, in their previous location. Was that previous location called before the committee? Were there agreements made? Was that previous license ever suspended or anything else? So if I could maybe get some clarification from perhaps the chairman,
Sure,
I'd appreciate it.
Yes.
If Alder Coe would yield to those questions.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So actually, when all this came about, they were going to go to anything that would happen there and the next time would automatically go to a due process. We had concerns and they were shared with him. And the owner of the building at that time then closed the place down until he could come up with a way to revamp it. But if anything if they would have been open and anything would have happened in the next 3-6 months, it would have automatically triggered a due process. So it was taken up at our committee. And at that, like I said, at that time, he shut the bar down on his own.
Alderman
Thank you very
McCarthy.
much. Oh, thank you very much.
Any other comments or discussion on this item? Alder Caprillion.
Thank you. Just one other thing for consideration that it hasn't been said, maybe it's just always assumed, but is that, so we have a police liaison with us for a reason on public safety and licensing. And at the time it was Lieutenant Webb, who was just on point, and he just served that position so well with the information that would come before us and all of the calls of service to the area. And if he is showing frustration with that liquored establishment, and we do nothing, and frustration because of all the amount of resources that had to get put in that area and not go anywhere else in the city, and us as alders then, by voting this to come back, another two actually have one break up into 2 establishments, come back before them, what kind of message of partnership, and are we truly listening to what they're having to go through on something we're voting on? It is not an easy thing as if it goes downhill from here. It's not so much an easy thing to clean up, because there are things, residual things that stick around, like in the neighborhood, the stress that it causes to those who actually have to live there day in and day out, right? And I am all for giving people chances. I am absolutely for it. That's why they come before a licensing committee to open up an establishment. We are just as excited as they are for their investment in our community. We gave them a chance. We gave them a chance, and they've just proven themselves. This isn't it. This shouldn't be in the cards for them. At least, they had the opportunity to do it right. And again, we are at our mark. So if something else were to come before us and we are deciding to invest in them rather than invest in somebody else who may run a better plan of business, right? Who has the respect for the police department, the neighborhood, state statute, and then the city of Racine and our policies. So please consider that with the vote.
Thank you, Alder Caprillion. Alder McCarthy, your hand is up. I don't know if it's still up from before or if you had additional comments. Alder McCarthy?
That was from before. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, so just as a clarification, before we go to the vote, this item is item 0610-21 regarding the liquor license for Class B and Class C fermented malt beverage and wine license for Pair of Aces Sports Bar and Grill. The recommendation from the committee is to approve. And so a yes vote would be a vote to approve the license. When the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
No.
Alder Perez,
Yes.
Alder Taft,
No.
Alder Mikma,
No.
Alder Lemke,
No.
Alder Coe,
No.
Alder Jones,
Yes.
Alder Tate II,
No.
was that a no? I'm sorry.
Nay.
Thank you. Alder Caprillion,
No.
Alder Peterson,
Yes.
Alder Horton,
Yes.
Alder West,
No.
Alder McCarthy,
No.
Alder Pete.
No.
4 ayes, 10 ayes, or 4 ayes, 10 noes.
Motion fails. Attorney Letney, just so I'm clear then, does there need to be a subsequent motion to deny the license, or is that simply implied by the action the council just took?
Now, if there's an intent to deny the motion or to deny the license, there should be a motion to that effect.
I would like to
Okay.
make that motion for denial, please.
Second,
Alder Caprillion has made a motion to deny the license. Alder Coe has seconded that motion. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing, Alder McCarthy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification perhaps from the city attorney. Is there any implication of a denial vote on the applicant?
Well, I mean, other than the license being denied, no, this is not one of those kinds of situations where a license that exists is being non-renewed or revoked. This is just a denial of a license. So an aye vote would be to deny.
Thank you.
Okay, good clarification. Alder McCarthy, any other discussion on this item? Okay, then just as a reminder, based on the motion that Alder Caprillion has made, a yes vote is a vote to deny the liquor license. When the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
No.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Mikma,
Yes.
Alder Lemke,
Yes.
Alder Coe,
aye.
Alder Jones,
Abstain.
Alder Tate II,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
No.
Alder Horton,
No.
Alder West, Alder West,
Sorry, aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Yes.
10 ayes, 3 noes, 1 abstain.
The motion to deny the license carries. Moving on to the remainder of the public safety and licensing report. Alder Coe, did you have any other items for separate consideration?
Yes, item 0628-21. Communication submitting an application for a Class B retail fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license for CBI of Racine Inc. doing business as Tropical Paradise located at 1641 Douglas Avenue, Dorothy Lee, agent. Okay, and this thing came back a couple of times, so let me get back here. So just trying to go through this. So the application was deferred at the 8/17 meeting. And then the recommendation of the Public Safety and Licensing Committee on 9/13 that the application, that isn't right. I got asked, I thought that one was to deny, and it shouldn't, it says here on the thing to approve it. I believe this item was denied at the committee level.
I will refer your question to the city assistant clerk, Amber Pfeiffer.
I think
I
he's
do
reading it wrong.
Alder Cole, I think I had printed yours out before I had made the correction of the error
Okay.
information on it.
Okay, yes, this is, all right, well, this was the second time this came back to committee, and this was the second time it was denied. So, there would be a motion to approve the recommendation then.
Second.
So you're making a motion to approve the committee recommendation to deny the license, just so I'm
Right.
clear.
Yes.
And Alder Caprillion is seconding that motion.
Right.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Alder Horton, Alder Horton, you're muted.
Again, Your Honor, thank you. Again, this is another item that, from my recollection, it was kind of like a tie, 2-2. I must admit I was not at that meeting. It was a tie 2-2. It ended up coming back to the Common Council, where it was referred back to the committee. So it went back to the committee, and we had a discussion on it, and it still was a deadlock there until the chair kind of like broke the deadlock. So here's another establishment. After we talked about all the establishments before this, where we just spent a lot of time talking about the owners and all that, there was something said to, there should be attachment from Alder Santiago, who this establishment is in his district. Some of you guys probably read it, that he attached to it about what went on out there. And this is all centered around them not allowing the police officers to come into the establishment. I wouldn't be talking in support of this, of denying it. I would probably be in support of supporting this bar to get their license. So I'll probably wait, Your Honor, until it gets to that part after you guys go through the procedure to get to that. But I wouldn't be in support of denying it.
Alder Coe.
Yeah, well, when they were going through the Good Neighbors report, they were saying they're given the lack of issues associated with the former licensed premises. What happened was the bar got sold. That's why they left. But with all the stuff that was happened at this bar, there was a shooting over there. There was multiple fights over there all the time. Now they say this is a new building owner where they're moving. It's a new building owner, but it's the same agent that was responsible for all the stuff that went on at this other establishment. And I think the cops were there probably multiple 3-4 times. And the shooting, I can't remember how many people got shot at. And it was a dangerous place. It used to be formerly located on Martin Luther King Drive for 20 odd years, and they never had a problem. They were only here a very short time, and it was problematic from almost day one. So, and I think Alderwoman Caprillion would like to speak to this item also.
Thank you so much. Can I speak? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, when they did the Good Neighbor report, it didn't pull in the stuff from earlier. However, this is another liquored agent who ran a facility that needed a lot of police resources. Things happened, as Alderman Coe talked about police shootings, things like that. So it would be very unfortunate if we just continue. We've given them their opportunity to conduct business, and they are proving to become more of a stressor rather than an asset and a benefit to the neighborhood and to the landscape of our community and our vision of what we want the community to look like. And so again, this was a denial from the committee, and I would hope that you would vote with that. So thank you.
Alder Horton.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Once again, the shooting, if you guys recall, the shooting over at that establishment was a shooting of someone by the police. And actually, when they came in, it wasn't something that the bar done. They wrote a statement saying that when the police came to the bar, that there were employees there that did not have access to bring up the footage. When speaking to someone that was at the bar, he said, hey, when the police came, we did let them in. Said that they came in, and I'll just say it, that, the way they talked to him as a person that's in the bar, he told them that, hey, we can get the footage, but we have to get somebody out here to get the footage for us. So when we're talking about resources, we're not talking about 200 people in the street. We're not talking about 9 to 12 squads out there for this establishment is something that we talked about previous. We're talking about a brand new owner who sent something to everybody in the committee, said, hey, I had 2 bars here. I ran 2 establishments here. I have 4 or 5 group homes here. I'm a graduate of Hoyok. I was in the Marines. And so I would ask the people, I would ask my colleagues to to take a look at, you know, his record of being here as a new bar owner who has spent about $125,000 into this establishment. So again, you know, speaking of other previous bar and bar owners, you know, I don't think that we have had the magnitude of calls. And then our chair just said itself that being on Martin Luther King Drive over 20 years had no problems. He had no problems. So it shows that this guy has the ability, one, to run a bar, two, to maintain a bar, and to keep it open. But I think we're so focused on this other person and not really talking about the real agent, who is Miss Doherty. She's the agent. And I think that when we're talking about the agent, we should keep our discussion totally towards the agent who is applying for this liquor license. And I would be in support of this liquor license.
Alder Coe?
Dorothy Lee was the agent at this previous place, so she's the same agent. The new building is a different owner, but Dorothy Lee was the agent for this establishment on 1600 Douglas Avenue.
Alder Lemke?
Yes, if this is like too in the weeds, someone can just say so, but do we have a sense of if someone ran a business so well for so long, why it suddenly changed? Because I'm trying to balance like a lot of problems, don't want to vote for it, with like long history, maybe do want to vote, you know? So do we have any sense of what changed, or if there was some big difference?
I'll refer your question to the chair of the committee, Alder Coe.
Well, I will say, I think the location probably had a lot to do with this problem over there. It was a bigger establishment. It was on it was on Douglas Avenue, a lot busier traffic and stuff like that. That could have been part of the problem. But when all this stuff was going on, I believe we called them in at least once, and it didn't change. And the only reason why this whole thing changed is somebody else bought the building, and they turned it into a club for veterans. That's it.
Okay. Then Alder Lemke, you still have the floor. Did that answer your question?
I think so, unless anyone else has any insight.
Okay. Alder Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. One question. The current owner, when he purchased the building, did he purchase that building to be run as a bar or something else?
I'll refer your question to the chair of the committee to see if he knows the answer.
Could you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question, please?
When the current owner purchased the building, did he purchase it with the anticipation that it would be a bar?
No.
versus-
No. The building was purchased by a club, so it's not a bar no longer. And like I said, I think I will say the biggest problem with this could have been the location on Douglas Avenue with that bar. So I will honestly say that. But like I said, the new building owners, they didn't put a bar in the place. It's a private club. If that answers your question.
Not really, because you're saying that the person that's applying for the license now is going into this building.
Okay, no. All right, the person that is applying, she's applying for a different building because they lost their previous building. They're going in the old Chiefs building that got sold. But
I guess that's my question. So they're going into a building that a new owner has purchased.
Yes.
And
but it's
so
the
when
same.
that
But it
owner
was the
purchased
same.
the building-
It was the same person that operated this previous bar that is the agent at this bar.
Okay, so if we deny the license to this person, it would in turn hurt the guy that purchased the building because he was going to allow her to set up a bar in it, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that would probably be correct.
So his investment then for letting it become a bar now becomes in vain because of this person that's applying for the license.
Yeah. And the place, Chiefs was an operating bar. So they just want to reopen the bar under new ownership and a new name.
Okay.
Wait.
Alder Jones, did that clarify your question?
It clarifies the question, but I'm saying the person that owns the building now, and if this lady's going in, you're denying it without even them opening it up to see what it's going to be like. If she hasn't been in this particular building, how are we determining that she's going to be a bad representative in this area if she hasn't opened up the building yet?
I guess the only thing I can say was previous things that happened at the other place. People have concerns. It's a lot easy. It's a lot harder to take away a license than it is to give a license. So I'm just trying to be careful here.
It's still like you're penalizing the owner of the building if he has this lady, and you are saying from her past record, she's automatically going to be bad in this establishment as well. Because if she hasn't been in the establishment yet, but you're denying the license on previous experience, how can you determine that it's going to be bad?
Alder Go.
Well, all I can say is we have made denials based on previous ownership. People buy bar buildings all the time, and sometimes they don't get to open a bar in this building or that building. It's, that's why we have a committee to ask questions and determine it. But, we didn't tell this new owner to buy the building to put in a bar. We didn't know that this person was going to apply at this bar.
Alder
But
Jones.
It still doesn't satisfy my question of you're prejudging what someone will do in the future, and you don't know that for certain. There's no one can determine whether this person that's applying, even if they were horrible before, you can't determine if they're going to be horrible, because maybe the owner would say that you cannot do this in my building.
Molly, that's why there's 15 of us. I have, I've had some bad bars in my time that have gone on and just went to new location, and it didn't improve any. So that's why there's 15 of us voting on it, and I still have concerns about this.
I still understand, but we still have bars in Racine that are open that people have been killed in, and it's still open. So you are automatically dooming this bar, and it hasn't even opened yet.
We can go back and forth all night, Molly, but all it is, it's just because of the way the previous place was. That's all I got to say. So I'd say let's call the question.
I'm going to hold off on that, Alder Co. There are no fewer than 5 people who have their hands up. So,
okay.
Alder Jones, if you don't mind, I'll try to enter some other folks into the conversation. I don't ever want to take the floor away from you, Molly, if you'd still have questions.
I am good, but thank you.
Great. Alder Mi'kmaq.
Point of order.
Oh, Alder Tate.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind members of this astute and esteemed body that we recently passed a code of conduct. We should be referring to each other as our titles, not our first names. So
sorry about that.
It should be the gentlewoman from the second or Alder Jones. Thank you.
All right.
Point well taken, President Tate. Alder Mi'kmaq.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm seeking some clarification because I think I'm getting a mixed explanation here. So I know there was a reference to the Good Neighbors report. I'm looking at the Good Neighbors report. In the summary, it says, Tropical Paradise is now back in business with the same business model and agent, Dorothy Lee. Given the lack of issues associated with the former licensed premises, staff does not anticipate many issues with this particular premise. So I guess I'm kind of confused as how that was the staff report, but we're hearing a much different story from the committee members. I don't know if anybody can clarify that.
I'll ask Alder Coe to answer your question.
So
If you
what
would-
happened was we had switched. We got a new liaison officer that didn't have this information. And Lieutenant Webb came on and spoke. And they went to the Good Neighbors meeting. I forget, Ortiz, he was the one that didn't have all this information. And during our meeting, Lieutenant Webb came on and spoke to all the problems that we had there. That's why it wasn't on the Good Neighbors report.
Okay,
That
so
answers
it-
your question.
Thank you.
But it just didn't carry forward Lieutenant Webb's institutional knowledge on the site. Is that what you're saying, Alder Coe?
Right, and I'm the only one that's on there that's been on long enough to remember it. And that, like I said, then Lieutenant Webb came and spoke to it.
Okay.
And that's why.
There were a number of hands that were up just before. Alder Caprillion.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to do a better job. Last time I was trying to speak, what's the responsibility of an agent? And I was trying to find in my page and I didn't do so well, but Alder Jones, welcome to the weight of public safety and licensing and the decisions we have to make, the little conundrum that you are in. This is the one committee that does not have certain absolute black and white to be able to vote on. This is based off the very best that we can do with taking the informations and the tools that we have. So a lot of times what I am basing it off of is we have our police department representative liaison before us, and really I'm taking heed what they're going through. I'm not there, I'm sleeping by the time, when they're out doing calls. I'm really wondering how much stress that we're putting our police department in. So that's one thing I take heed on. The next thing is, and nothing more than the other, but our state statute. Are they adhering to state statute? How is their business practice? How are they conducting business? So I have to look at, are they absolutely defying and not being a good neighbor with the community, also adhering to our policies, laws. So the agent, this is the agent, might be a different owner. There's a lot of individuals who invest in buildings, and some of those buildings just happen to be a bar. Who comes in there and is that licensed agent running it? Could be multiple people. That location, which again is on Douglas Avenue, which the chair had mentioned could have been a reason why everything went sour. This is on Douglas Avenue as well, mind you, okay? So an agent, the person in whom a company or corporation vests full authority and control of the premise and of the conduct of all business on the premises related to alcohol beverage. So we are going to hopefully vote in denial of this individual who's already shown as the agent to all those things I talked about, not check the boxes in a good way, but in the negative way, in my opinion, right? So again, this is about judgment, unfortunately. But we have to look at right now in this, for instance, we have historical knowledge, and some of the times we don't have that. We just went forward with a liquor establishment in good faith, and it's going downhill within a month's period, right? So, but Alder Jones, again, this is a very hard decision that we had to make, and using all those tools that we have, I think the absolute best decision is to deny.
Thank you. Alder Rouse.
Yeah, thank you. Alder Caprillion spoke to a lot of what I wanted to say, but just to break it down simply, every decision that we make is a guess as to what will happen into the future. We have to make these decisions and then hope our decisions are the right ones going forward. One of the reasons why this one is so important is because we have a limited number of these liquor licenses. So it's not like any other business where we want to let everyone have a chance and then prove themselves. Unfortunately, if we move forward with these types of individuals, we are then blocking off anybody else from an opportunity of opening up an establishment similar who might have a better record, who might have a better game plan, a better system in place. But currently right now, the only information we have to make these types of decisions is that past standing and that information, very valuable information we got from the police liaison, who is one of our main tools to make those types of decisions. So I agree that we should be voting to deny this.
Alder Coe.
Sorry, my hand is still up from before. I apologize.
No, okay. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, just as a reminder, a yes vote is an affirmation of the committee recommendation to deny the license. When the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rose,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
Aye.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Mikma,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Unmuting myself, aye.
Alder Coe,
Aye.
Alder Jones,
No.
Alder Tate II,
No.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
No.
Alder Horton,
No.
Alder West, Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
10 ayes, 4 noes.
The motion to deny carries. Alder Coe, did you have any other items for separate consideration?
Oh, yeah.
Please proceed with the next item.
Item 0691-21, communications submitting an application for a Class B retail fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license for GRC Sports Lounge, doing business as GRC, located at 1307 Douglas Avenue. Reggie Booker, agent, 4th District.
And the recommendation and motion
Oh,
is, Alder Coe,
Motion to approve.
is there a second? Is there a second to approve this item?
Second, McCarthy.
The second from Alder McCarthy. Discussion?
All
Alder,
right. Yeah. All right. Can I speak or no?
oh, sure. Alder Coe, you made the motion. You have the right to speak first.
Yeah, so I'm doing one, this is a little bit different. So this was gonna be coming up as a topic of discussion from one of the first item we talked about. So this is a gentleman that owns this building. He could not apply for a license in his name before, well, he's a felon. So he could not apply, but he has had nothing on his record for many, many years. And he was not really a hands-on owner. When this last big thing came up on Douglas Avenue, he voluntarily closed the bar up. And he called me and asked me a lot of different questions, you know, and I said, well, I said, it's your building. You should try to put it in your name. And so he did do that. He's got some ideas in mind. I mean, he's going to change the whole atmosphere of the place. The crowd's going to be 30 and older. He plans on closing at 1 a.m. He's adding a kitchen before he even opens this place and hiring off-duty police officers. the guy's gonna have a lot of investment into this. He owns the building. He should have been more hands-on, but he was not the agent. This man he was in prison. He got his GED in prison, and while he was in prison, he became a plumber, a licensed plumber. He owns multiple businesses in Racine, 2 restaurants, a plumbing company, and he also owns home remodeling. And his plans are to be open 3 days a weekend. And while they're open now, he plans on being in the establishment. And like I said, he owns this building and he has a lot to lose. And he said he should have never let all this stuff happen. There was a relationship between the two and it went apart. So I'm asking people to approve this.
Alder Caprillion?
Thank you so much. So this is really interesting one here. So Crystal from the original one, she was actually the agent. However, this applicant was acting as the agent. Again, against statute. However, so that is where she shifted the blame on all the things happening at GRC. GRC was the licensed liquor establishment that all that report I read to. So that was under his rule, if we want to say that, under his leadership, which he shouldn't have had to begin with because he was not the one who was the agent. And I just want to mention that it never was talked about his past. So he never was denied. He never even tried to get that agent position, and nor would we probably have even denied it if that were the case initially when it came before, because it's even written out in our state statute not to use that type of thing against them when applying for positions. However, I want to talk about a few things here. So just realize we're making decisions how people are doing business practices. When we called them before us because of stresses that are going down, oftentimes they are saying we're going to make these changes, we're going to do this, and they have been called. They said that it didn't, maybe because of stress of the relationship or whatever it may be, but problems consisted over and over and over again till finally they just surrendered the license because it got out of hand. And now he wants to be able to, hey, now I just want to open it up here again. And Alder Coe did talk about him having other establishments. I wanted to inform this committee that one of his other establishments was causing problems in the city as well with the health department. So they were in a violation numerous times of illegal dumping of grease on the sidewalk. And they were slow to do it. The health department, they got charged 7 different times. They had to keep coming back and back and back again before it was even addressed, which tends to be a repeat of his business practice that was happening at GRC. So again, I would love to give people an opportunity to do business in our community. We've given him the opportunity. Not only has he proved himself at GRC, acting illegally as the agent, but also in dealing with our health department and other departments. So please keep that in mind. This is the same establishment that I read that report about, and no, this should be an absolute denial.
Alder Coe?
Yeah, and like I said, when all this stuff broke out, when all the police were there, he voluntarily closed the place down until he could get a handle on this place. And I'd like to give him a chance in his own name. And it might not have happened now, but previously on this committee, people were afraid to apply for a license in their name because they were told if you're a felon, you can't get a license. And people still believe that today. And I want to give this gentleman the benefit of the doubt, even though I have some concern, but I really believe in what he wants to do. And like I said, he's adding a kitchen. He's got plans and showed them to me. And I really think he would turn this place around. So I would ask for people to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Coe. Any other discussion? Alder Peterson?
Yes. For those who aren't on the committee, I will remind you that we just voted down a pair of aces Crystal, the other half of this partnership, shall we say, it sounds like she disappeared from GRC 8 months plus prior to it, a lot of the issues that occurred. We turned it down because she was the agent and now she's looking for a new license. We turned her down. But it sounds like Mr. Booker was running the property while all the issues happened, but now that is no longer a problem. I mean, I voted to give Mr. Booker the license and I voted to give Crystal a license, being that they're separated and they've changed their hours and operations. But like I said, I'll vote for this, but I'm struggling with the fact that we turned down one part of this GRC couple and we're going to give it to the other one. Like I said, I'll vote for this one strictly because I voted for the other one.
Alder Lemke.
Yeah, so I was in public safety and licensing for a long time and certainly saw a lot of different scenarios. I don't think, and I was on there for a long time, ever seen this like pseudo partner situation, which apparently is not legal. And if there is this like, I'm applying through someone else situation, which is not legal, what has, I mean, is I just don't know. So then they close it and it's just not pursued, or I mean, when that kind of thing happens, because I mean, what happens then?
I will refer your question maybe to Attorney Letney.
Well, it really ends up being up to the committee or the council how to deal with it. I mean, you're right, a straw, there can't be a straw operation like that. But the committee decides what to do at this point.
Okay. Alder Coe, you wanted to respond to that?
Yeah, I do want to respond to that. So there is a couple of bars in the city of Racine that are owned by people that had the same kind of problems, that have agents running it for them for years and years. And so it's they're not hiding anything. In fact, one of them is my brother's an agent for an establishment, and the owner never ever applied for the bar because he thought he couldn't. And now my brother, I believe, is buying the bar, so it doesn't matter at this point. But there's a couple other places in the city that have the same type of thing that are agents.
Alder McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This perhaps could again be addressed to the committee chair. You talked about a kitchen, and I see looking at the minutes, there's talk about security guards, et cetera. Are there any conditions put on this proposed approval?
Well, one of the things, he came up with a list of things for one, and he has to sign this agreement. So he's going to have 30 and older. He plans on closing at 1 a.m. He's adding the kitchen because he wants to change the atmosphere of the place. And he's hiring, he's going to have staff that he hires for like security, but he's also hiring off-duty officers. He is not going to be doing any DJs, which was part of the problem that was over there. He's not going to be having any dancing in the place. So he put a lot of conditions on himself to try to reestablish this place. And this all has to be in writing before this is done. You know, before he gets his license. That answers your question.
McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It does, but it raises more questions. You said this all has to be in writing before he gets his license. It's not in writing, as far as I can tell based on your description, and we're about to approve his license. So,
well, all right, but the thing is, you can't get anything. You got to get all the approvals by the building department and everything like that. So before he gets this, he'll have to come in and sign. You know, he agreed to this stuff during our committee meeting. He will have to agree to all this stuff, and it will be in writing. We will have it in writing for him to sign. And it will not happen. We will not let him open this place until he agrees to everything, you know, signs everything he agreed to.
Alder McCarthy.
If I may follow on, perhaps it's city attorney here. Are we in a tenable position as described by Alderman Coe? Can we, after we approve the license, now enforce conditions that aren't currently in writing?
These,
Attorney Latney.
Well, the license would be approved subject to the conditions. And I will say that the processing of the license, honestly, the assistant clerk might be in a better position to answer physically what happens with the processing of the license, but the license would be approved subject to the conditions the committee imposed.
That is not the motion in front of us at this point, though.
okay. Well, I would amend my motion to that then.
So Alder Coe, you're asking to amend your own motion to say that the approval would be
Subject
sort
to
of
conditions.
subject to conditions agreed to as stipulated by the committee to the applicant.
Right. And Amber might
Scott.
have some of that in writing, I'm not sure.
Scott, is that an acceptable way to phrase that?
Well, I'd be a little more comfortable if we knew specifically what the conditions are.
Could I ask if the
Wait,
assistant
no.
clerk would have that information?
I can ask the assistant clerk if there is any such written documentation of those items. Amber, do you know the answer to that question?
I have to look up the minutes from the last meeting. I apologize. I have to look up it up. It might take me a few minutes.
I do.
Okay.
I have the minutes open, Mr. Mayor. The minutes indicate 2 off-duty police officers and 5 security guards. He stated they will be closing at 1 and that he will be playing, he'll have a DJ instead of live music. So those are in the minutes, whether that's legally binding or not, I don't know the answer.
So to the city attorney, I guess, to Alder Coe's desire to make those the license approval conditional, can you reference those items in the minutes as what the conditions are?
If they are specific enough to satisfy the council in making the vote, that would be enough. So.
Alder McCarthy, does that answer your question?
No, that was a lawyer answer.
Alder McCarthy, anything else on that point?
No, thank you.
Alder Coe, we have the
Yes,
floor.
Are you comfortable with voting on this, Alder McCarthy, or would you, I guess, my question, I guess, would be, would you like to see something in writing from coming to our committee? We don't normally do it that way because we agreed to it last time. But I'm just trying to satisfy you.
Alder McCarthy.
I've not made up my mind on my vote yet.
Okay. Why don't we move on, Alder Coe, and maybe we can come back to
All
this
right.
for clarity. Alder Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure how to do this, but I don't feel that we're ready to vote on this item at the moment, because to be honest about it, I've heard from everyone, with all respect, all my colleagues, if and suppose, and I'm not sure if we really understand which part of this we're voting on. I was going to ask a question about the legal enforcement of it, but we haven't decided on what those requirements would be to start with. So I don't think we're at a position at this point to vote one way or the other on this item. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alder Pete. It's a good point. If you wanted to do something about it, it would require a motion to do so. Why don't we hear from some other folks? Alder Lemke?
Thank you. I think Alder Pete so eloquently put it and kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I think, our governmental system is built on committees for a reason. They do the work, they bring us the recommendations. And I'm not comfortable. I mean, this is, the Public Works and Services Committee has tons of legal ramifications in a way that like, you know, putting up a parking sign does not. And we have a lawyer specifically assigned to this committee who goes through the facts of, you know, every applicant we have, you know, and I mean, for people who have not been on the committee, I mean, there's like a binder of law that you have that like says if this issue comes up, then you shouldn't have a license. If this issue is not present, then you should have a license, blah, blah, blah. And all this state statute. And I just don't think that saying like, hey, let's do this here when we have an attorney who does, I mean, whose job it is in part to just do this. I just don't think we should be doing committee work on the city council floor. And it sounds like there's a lot of back and forth. And if there's like one amendment, whatever, great. But I mean, I think this is what committees are for. And I think especially with this committee, having so much state, local, blah, 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 like law that relates to this, I think we should have an attorney look, I mean, and I get that Attorney Letney is here, but right, like, I think we should also allow these attorneys time to not do it on the fly. I mean, I get he's got a ton of expertise, but like, probably shouldn't just say in 2 seconds, hey, is it legal? I just think this should go back to committee. I would make a motion to do so if it is in order, but I'm not sure that it is, so.
It would be in order to, if you want to refer the item back to committee, that would be in order at this time.
I would make a motion
Second.
to refer.
So Alder Lemke's made a motion to refer the item back to committee. Somebody sang their second. I don't know who that, oh, Alder Taft is the second. So the item on the floor now is an item to refer this item back to committee. Alder Lemke, would you like to speak to, I mean, you've been speaking to it. Do you want to speak to the motion any further?
No, I would just underscore what I said. I want to give both the applicant and the city a fair chance to present whatever points they want to present. But I don't think that we should regularly be in the discussion of doing this on the floor of the council. If like, again, debate one amendment, fine. But like, if it's like, we don't have all of the facts, there's all this stuff in debate, that's committee work to me.
Okay, thank you. Alder Caprillion?
Thank you. Oh my goodness. So I would absolutely not be in favor of this coming back to the committee. First of all, these conditions were voluntary. They are not legal binding. And the talk of, it always sounds good, you're going to put a kitchen, but they haven't even involved the health department in. And sometimes the expense of that exceeds their pocketbook, because if it is not up to standard, there's a lot of money that has to get dumped into that. And for that even to be part of a consideration, again, non-legal binding, voluntary conditions. And I think Alderman Peterson was making an absolute valid point. This applicant is somebody who was running the establishments, and he rightfully admitted so at our committee level during the time where everything went awry. So he consciously made decisions to run this establishment by not adhering to our state statutes, and was defined. It was him who was putting people in place who were, there was no one licensed on premises or on the premise, and there was no posting, and it was him who was conducting businesses or the business while we were causing stress to our police department and the neighborhood. This should not go. We've already seen this back at committee or talked about it excessively. Yeah, this is committee talk right now, but I appreciate that everybody understands the weight that what is on public safety and licensing. We've been talking about this for a long time, but here is somebody who's proven themselves as how they conduct business, not only here, but at his other establishment that is, repeated times the health department had to come back over and over again because he's not fixing things. So do not vote for this to go back. We're doing the work right now.
Thank you. Alder Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess if it's going back to the committee, I won't have a question, but if it's not going back, I was asking, Alder Core mentioned that the person that's applying for the license now is the convicted felon or not?
Alder Co?
Yes, but he hasn't been on anything for ages. He even bought a letter. He even bought a letter to the city, he got
Point of
off-
order, this is on
All
referral
right,
back to
I
the
tell you
committee.
what, I got a,
Yeah.
how about, I tell you what, I got a question for Scott Letney then. So,
Well,
Point of order, Your Honor.
actually, Jeff, you don't have the floor right now.
all
so-
right, I'm just trying to, all right, what I'm trying to get, was gonna ask a question that would.
But you don't have the floor right now, Alder Co. So
All right,
let
I
me get back to
apologize.
Alder Jones,
all
and
right,
then we'll come back to you. Alder Jones?
Well, that was my question. I wasn't sure who could answer it because I was just thinking if this was a convicted felon, but we are willing to give him a license now and hope that he will do better. But just the item before, we weren't willing to give this new owner of the establishment to have someone else come in and run the bar for him. So we kind of punishing the owner of the building and we didn't give that lady a second chance, but we're going to give the convicted felon a second chance because his record has been clean. I was just kind of asking that question.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's an answer to it. It sounds like more of an observation than a question. Is that a fair assessment?
The first part was a question about whether we were giving the license to a convicted felon, and I guess that was established that we were. And
Yes.
then it was just more of a statement. Now we are going to give him a license and give him a second chance, but we weren't able to give the previous item person a second chance to do better. That was just my part on that, but thank you.
No, thank you. Alder Mi'kmaq.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate everybody and your patience this evening. I'm sorry I'm lending to drawing this out. I know everybody's probably tired, but I feel like there's been a lot of things. So I'm going to hopefully get all my thoughts out here as effectively as possible. I think I would also speak against sending this back to committee. I think ample information has been shared, provided on this item. I think right now we're debating whether we want to be nice and give somebody a chance or whether we want to stick to what has been provided by a professional staff on their recommendation for this. And then, and I do think that it's a double standard that we're going to deny to other people. And then this guy comes along and is going to tell a better story or make a better pitch. And we're going to go ahead and go his way because we really like what he's saying, but we don't like what the other people are saying. But I think the fact of the matter is we keep going back to this, well, people deserve a second chance. Yeah, sure, people do deserve a second chance, but it's not a prevention-minded approach as we're trying to make the best decision for what is a good fit for our community. Sure, we don't know what the future holds, but we do have past experience as a guide for what the future is more likely to hold. And when we are making a decision based on this, we only have past experience with which to lean upon. And looking at this one right now, looking at the Good Neighbors Report, there are more things showing up on this Good Neighbors Report than there were on any of the other things that we've explored to this point. There are multiple things that Mr. Booker would need to do to even be able to get a license that, to my knowledge, and hasn't been addressed, haven't been, those steps have not been met. I don't understand why we are considering sending this back to committee when we were so quickly willing to make decisions on the previous items. But this one, we want to give more time. I think the point has been made that we do have a professional staff that has lent their opinion on this, that has done their due diligence, and a policing staff that has provided feedback. And we're going to, again, consider throwing aside their professional opinion because we have another person coming forward with a really powerful story about their excitement about having a new business, though they have been unable to prove that they are able to operate that business effectively in the past. It's very difficult for me to get behind this. It is not a prevention-minded approach. It is a feel-good approach, and we all want to feel good. We all want to pat everybody on the back and say everything's going to be okay. But I think the point that has been made a couple of times by a few other alders is that we have limited opportunity for these kind of establishments because we have limited number of licenses. There are going to be other people that want to come in and attempt to run a business in our city that we will have to deny outright because there will not be available licenses to give them. Because we wanted to feel good and give people second chances in this moment where we're going to disregard staff opinion because we just want to pat ourselves on the back and say, man, we're really hoping they get it right this time. It doesn't make sense. There's more than enough information right now to make a decision at this time. I do not think it's appropriate to send it back to committee because the proof is in the pudding and the details are right here in front of us. And I get we want to feel good, but it's not our responsibility to feel good and to give somebody a second chance because we think they might get it right. It's our responsibility to make the best decision for what will serve this community most effectively. And I think because of all of those things, I think it would be a waste of time to send it back to committee. And we need to move forward on this as we did with the previous two at this time. Thank you.
Alder Lemke?
I'm happy to withdraw my motion. I just think I guess my point was that a lot of this discussion is discussion that is, to me, like should we include point A kind of discussion is like what you have at the committee. So that's my point, and I'm, hopefully taken, but I'm happy to withdraw the motion for this particular item.
Okay, Alder Lemke is saying she'd like to withdraw her motion. Alder Pete, as the seconder of the motion, are you okay with that?
I was the
Yes, I am.
seconder.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Alder Taft sang her second. I apologize. I confused the two.
So
Alder
after 6
Taft,
hours of continuous meetings, I'm a little punchy. Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, okay. So we have withdrawn the motion to refer the item back to committee and are back to the main motion before us. Alder Lemke, was there anything more you wanted to say then to the main motion?
I do not have anything further to add. I think there has been a lot of discussion and I have all the information that I feel that I need.
Okay. Alder Peterson.
Yes, like I said before, I'm going to vote for it, just being consistent. I hope everybody else is consistent. That's all I got to say on that. This is no different than the Crystal application.
Alder West.
Thank you, Your Honor. Alder Meekma, I mean, you couldn't say it no better than that. I would allow him to be my publicist one day. It was just perfect. So I'm saying all that to say this. I mean, we've been selling the sizzle all night about the other two applicants and how their future isn't bright. But then we get to this situation, we think that he may be able to do a better job. And I just think that we need to stay consistent. If we rejected the other two, I think this one ought to be rejected as well. So I will be voting in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder West. Alder Coe.
I was just, it might be a moot point now, but I was just going to ask Attorney Letney, if this did go back to committee and they signed an agreement and agreed to all the stuff that we were talking about tonight, he would have to follow that agreement. Am I correct?
Attorney Letney.
Well, if the motion to approve was conditioned upon
Right.
the stipulations, then yes, he would have to do them.
Right, and that's what was approved at the committee. So that's all I was asking. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Okay, so again, the motion before us is a committee recommendation to approve this license. So a motion in favor would approve the committee recommendation to approve this license. Alder McCarthy.
Thank you. Just for clarity's sake, were the stipulations ever part of the motion or not?
Yes.
If this does pass, I want to be sure the stipulations are there.
Yes.
I'll just ask the city attorney to affirm that based on the minutes.
I think Alder Coe said that. I don't personally recall the seconder agreeing to that. But there are conditions set forth in the minutes of the committee.
Okay.
So
So Alder Coe would like to clarify that his motion includes the items stipulated to at the committee level as reflected in the minutes. I apologize, I do not recall who the original seconder of the main motion was. If whomever that is could remind me and let me know if you agree to that clarification from Alder Coe.
I thought it was Terry, but maybe I'm wrong.
It was Terry, actually, or Mr.
Was me?
McCarthy.
Oh, yes, that's right, because nobody else would. That's right.
So do you agree to that clarification, Alder McCarthy?
I do very much agree to that clarification.
Okay, excellent. Then with that clarification in mind, just as a reminder that this is a vote in the affirmative is a vote to approve the committee recommendation to grant the license. When the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
No.
Alder Perez,
Yes.
Alder Taft,
No.
Alder Mikma,
No.
Alder Lemke,
No.
Alder Coe,
Aye.
Alder Jones,
Abstain.
Alder Tate II,
No.
Alder Caprillion,
No.
Alder Peterson,
Yes.
Alder Horton,
No.
Alder West,
No.
Alder McCarthy,
Oh,
Alder Pete,
No.
3 ayes, 10 noes, 1 abstain.
Motion fails. Alder Coe, did you have any other items for separate consideration? Oh, I'm sorry, wait. The
yeah.
motion
I would like
failed,
to,
so then,
I would like
I-
to make a motion to deny.
yes, that would be it in order at this time. So motion to
Second.
deny the license, and there was a second from Alder Rouse. Did I get that correct? Alder Rouse, would you like to speak to the motion?
I agree with a lot of the talk on consistency. I think we need to be consistent as a council and that we have a professional staff as well as committee that are there to give us recommendations. And they're here to give us their take as they experience that information firsthand. I also think it's important that if we have these questions, that we are reviewing the minutes, that we are reviewing the footage that we have of those committee meetings, because a lot of those questions could be answered just by reviewing that and not bringing them up on the council floor.
Thank you, Alder Rouse. Alder McCarthy.
oh. Sorry, no question.
Alder Coe.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. This is essentially the same question asked in reverse. There's a motion to deny the license that was recommended by the committee. A yes vote is a vote to deny the liquor license. When the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
No.
Alder Taft,
Yes.
Alder Mikma,
Yes.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Coe,
No.
Alder Jones,
I'm going to abstain again.
Alder Tate II,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
No.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
10 ayes, 3 noes, 1 abstain.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Now, I believe, Alder Coe, were there any other items you had for separate consideration?
No.
Okay, then the remainder of those items will be placed on the consent agenda. We'll now move on to the Planning, Heritage, and Design Report. Alder Pete, I believe you had requests for separate consideration on both of these items.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You could start with the first one, please.
Okay, 1 second, please. Please bear with me just 1 quick second till I get the information in front of me. I have several pages here.
No worries. It's at the bottom of page 10 if you're looking for it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning, Heritage and Design Commission report. Item number 0671-21, subject review and discussion of the proposed establishment of the project plan boundaries and creation of a tax incremental district number 27 and consideration of approving resolution PHDC-21. Recommendation of the Planning and Heritage and Design Commission on August 25th, 2021, that the resolution establishing the boundaries and approving the project plan creating tax incremental district number 27 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Alder Pete, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I would like to move that the motion on item number 0671-21 be approved.
Second.
There's a second from Alder Coe, I believe. I do, as a reminder on this item and the other item, wanted to give Bill Bowers just the opportunity to give people a reminder of what neighborhood TIDs are. It's just an overview for the people on the Planning, Heritage and Design. They've been steeped in it, but some of you may need a refresher on what the neighborhood TIDs are. Mr. Bowers?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The neighborhood TIDs are designed to do a couple of things. One, they are designed to give property owners within that tax incremental district a tool that has been used for developers, but originally would have to have been designed for the neighborhoods themselves. So these are opportunities whereby the homeowners can take advantage of city funds that are made available for repairs to their homes, as well as other assistance in the programs. And different than other TIDs, they're not project driven in the sense that there's some large commercial project or a property being built. The TID increment is created by the growth in the values of the property within the TID district boundaries, so that when property owners upgrade their homes, then that value is captured in the TID district and in turn generates more increment for the homeowners in that TID district.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Questions or comments on the motion? Alder Perez.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've gotten a few phone calls and comments from those that are being affected by this proposal, especially in TID 27, since it falls in my district. Most of them, I tried to explain how the process works, and they were not happy. They did some research on their own, and they pointed out that most of the TIDs in the neighborhoods have caused their taxes to go up overall. And I believe that that is also consistent throughout the times we've studied the TIDs. In a TID as well, even though the money gets reinvested back in that community, the rest of us have to take on the burden of the taxes as well, because that money is no longer available for the general budget. And so all the people that I have in my district that have called me about it, most of them have been elderly, and they say that that's not really necessary. They really can't afford the taxes now because they're very high. And those are just some of the issues that have come up in the discussion. Now, I understand its purpose, and I can see where we've used it in the past, but with the understanding that most of the time, not always, I understand that most of the time it causes taxes to go up as well as the money gets reinvested in the community. It creates a problem, especially for my senior citizens that are on limited incomes in my community and the area that was designated in particular as TID 27. Also, the fact that because that tax gets invested back in that community, we've had discussions before where it's been pointed out that the rest, because that section in taxes is acting as a TID, the balance of the money that's not incorporated into the regular budget, because it's going back into that, has to be made up by the rest of the community. With those things in consideration, I wouldn't be voting for it in either one, 27 or 28. I know we're talking about 27 right now, but basically it's the same thing. And I get it. We want to improve the neighborhoods and so forth, but trying to represent my people here, and the comments that I've gotten have been no. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Perez. It is an often asked question about TIDs in general. Neighborhood TIDs are no different about will my taxes go up if this tax increment district is created? Mr. Bowers or Mr. Reddick, could you respond to that concern?
Sure, thank you, Your Honor. The property values in a TID district are valued the same way, whether they're in the TID or not. The tax incremental financing district is a mechanism to capture tax beyond the base. So it doesn't change the value of anyone's property, whether it's in the TID or not. It's a tool, and it's a tool that's given to any municipality to use in order to freeze the value or the tax levy proportion that's in there. So the city wouldn't get any less than what it normally would have gotten for the value of those homes. And the increment that is generated over time is based on the value of those properties. So it's not accurate to say that because of the TID, the values would go up. Now, values go up in certain areas and go down in other areas. So we can't determine with any certainty what would have happened or not. But I can tell you that the methodology for valuing properties in a TID or outside of a TID is exactly the same. So that if a property were going to be valued at $100,000, putting it in a TID district is not going to make it valued higher or lower. That valuation is going to be based on sales in the market, condition of the property, and things of that nature. So again, the tax district is a tool for capturing value above the base value at the time the TID was created, rather than generating value just by the property. Now, if there's a project that wouldn't be in there with a but-for test, something that would not have happened but for the TID, that particular property would add value that wouldn't be captured until the TID district is closed. So that's the other thing about it. But in terms of individual property owners having their properties valued higher because they're in a TID versus not in a TID, that's something that's not acceptable under Wisconsin Statute 7032. They have to be valued according to market value, whether they're in a TID district or not.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Alder Tate II.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the short answer is no, TIDs don't make your taxes go up, period. What happens is, that's it. If you're in a TID district, your taxes are what they were going to be. If your property value happens to increase after that point, that value, that additional tax that would have come with the increased value gets captured within the TID and reserved for future uses. So those dollars, if your property values are going up in, let's say, the 27th or 28th TID district, those dollars then get reserved to be reinvested back into your community. The taxes were going to be there either way. Now those dollars, and additionally, I think Mr. Bowers might be able to note, the taxes that would otherwise have gone to Gateway, the school district, and other entities that would have gotten them all get captured into your residential area, into that TID community. So instead of those dollars going to the school district or going to the county or elsewhere, now all of those dollars come back to that TID. So that's hopefully to clarify for some folks who kind of misconceive or misunderstand how TIDs work. I got several questions from some folks within the 9th district because they didn't have an alder at the time. So I'm just going to ask them on their behalf. So I'm sure they're probably sleeping by now, but certainly when we get it on the record, is from Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin. So one of the questions was about a proposed TID 27. How will a city fund improvements in older neighborhoods adjoining Northwestern Avenue? That was a very specific question about the TID and its location and how the city will fund improvements in those areas.
Bill, do you want to try to address that?
Let me grasp the question. Are they asking how the city will fund it? Are they inside or extra outside the TID?
Well, I don't want to put their address out there, but they're on
That's
Vista Drive. Vista Drive.
So if they're inside the TID, the funds that are generated by the TID district would be available to them. If
Right.
they're outside of that, there may be other city programs that they could avail themselves of, as well as in the future, there may be, in fact, there are funds that can be spent, I believe, within a half-mile radius of the TID if the city so chose and the council were to approve that in the future. But being directly in the TID district, those funds will be made available through the program that has been designed to disperse those funds and make them available through loans or grants or other mechanisms that get approved.
Okay. This next question might be a bit of a stretch in terms of kind of understanding how various mechanisms work for improvements, but I'll ask it. If the city is replacing streets and curbs, will the homeowners be asked to pay for the new street and curb replacements? If not, how will the city pay for the upgrades? This is particular interest to them because they live on a corner and paid out of pocket for the reconstruction for the Portland cement concrete and surrounding properties. So I think they're more or less asking if there's being funds captured, will those funds then be reinvested back into standard infrastructure or just for above and beyond the standard expectations of infrastructure that go to abutting property owners?
Mr. Bowers?
So the TID district, every TIF district that you approve includes a TID plan, and that plan would determine how much, if any, of the monies can be used for public infrastructure. And I believe that there would be a designation of a certain amount of these funds that will be specifically designed to do that. In that case, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe there'd be a reimbursement by the property owner if the city has chosen to use the TIF funds in accordance with that TID plan that allows for infrastructure.
I believe that's correct, Bill. I mean, what I'm recalling from the TID plan, and you have it attached, is that some percentage, I believe it's 25% of what's captured can be used for public infrastructure. To be candid, though, I don't think the plan delineates specifically how much reimbursement there might be for individuals versus not. I think that's I mean, if we're being transparent here, I don't think that that answer has actually been flushed out entirely on how that would work.
Right. So the potential is there to kind of address their particular need, but the determination is yet to be made.
Yes.
Another question is, will the proposed TID 27, and I'm not sure if that's even what we're on right now, monies be made available to all property owners regardless of designation or property condition, poor, excellent, etc.?
So the answer there, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, is yes, it's available to everybody. You have to be an owner occupant to be eligible for it, though. So not all, but regardless of the condition, it's meant to get homeowners up to, whether it's putting an addition on your home or getting your home up to code. The idea is to improve the state of the properties and the valuation of the properties in the TIDs. And Bill or Matt, please correct me if I mischaracterize that.
That's spot on.
All right. And then just the last one, and then I'll yield, and I think there's probably a question that probably a lot of folks might have anyway, is how were these neighborhoods identified as being proposed TID locations?
I'll let Bill take a stab at that.
So that's a really good question. We look at the total area of the city and then those areas where there is deterioration or there's appreciation, and we look at whether or not the TIF district would mitigate some of the issues that were happening in the areas, the fringe areas. Progression is what it's called, where you are taking a neighborhood that can be stabilized so that it doesn't deteriorate. And if in fact there are properties within that area that are stable, that gives the stabilization. I'm not sure if our consultant from Eilers is still on, but I believe the TIF district has to have at least 51% of the properties that are in deteriorated or blighted condition in order to qualify with the state statutes, Department of Revenue statutes. So we have to look at how many properties there are in an area that need this kind of mitigation, as well as limiting the number of properties that don't need it. in there as well. So if it's more than 50% or 51% that need it, then that boundary is acceptable, and the boundaries get adjusted based on other parameters within the city. But it's a calculation, and it's a review of the areas and the number of properties in the district to make the TIF district comply with statutes, as well as generate enough revenue for it to be viable.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Alder Tate. Alder Peterson.
Okay, this is going to be a while. All right, first question. It looks like Ms. Fisher's still on board. Is that correct, Ms. Fisher?
I'm here for you.
Okay, everybody says this does not increase taxes. Okay, TID 22 and 23 created. It's got approximately $400,000 sitting there. A little over half of it would be city money if it wasn't captured in the TID. Okay, so you got that money that is captured in the TID. If that money was put towards services, would the mill rate be lower? If that money was injected into the budget, would the mill rate be lower? Not
No.
asking for percentage.
Nope. So the city of Racine is allowed by state statute to levy a certain amount of operating tax, okay, under the levy limits. We levy exactly as much as we are allowed by state statute. TID districts are, let's say, exempt or separate from that operating levy limit. So what I will say is one of the benefits of a tax increment district today, and particularly for the city of Racine and for governments that are under levy limits and are urbanized and don't have a lot of growth, is that as a long-term fiscal plan, it allows us another tool in our toolbox to allow for redevelopment and to insert cash within these districts to help improve our properties for the long-term growth of the city of Racine. This is a long-term plan. Again, my responsibility is to look at long-term fiscal stabilization for the city of Racine. I will repeat again, the tax levy, the operating tax levy is levied no matter what. Under the levy limit, that dollar amount is exactly the same.
I understand, but you didn't answer the question. If the money was taken out of the TID district that is now in the TID district and used towards the tax levy, would the mill rate be lower?
No.
Okay, so if you got 200,000 coming out of TID 22 and 23, you're saying they're separate pies. Okay, so you're taking it out of TID 22 and 23. Now you're going to use it towards the tax levy. Okay?
But I can't use it the tax levy because I'm already maxed at my tax levy limit.
You're telling me there are two different pies. Okay, you have a tax levy limit. Okay? Now you can go above and beyond that with these TIDs. Okay. I don't know why this is so hard. So you've created a TID. You've taken money from the taxes. And instead of using it for the levy, you've put it in pie B. You have pie A and pie B.
This is incremental.
You have that gap. You have that gap. Do you not have a gap? Okay, say your house is assessed at $100,000. Okay, that $100,000 in the TID is going to be there forever for tax levy. Okay, the extra $5,000 next year it goes to $105,000. Okay, that money goes into the TID. You're still paying at the $100,000 level for the levy, correct?
No, the tax levy that we create for the operating levy is based on the full value of the city of Racine, regardless of whether there is or is not a TID district. Full value.
Okay, so then every TID then takes away from the ability to pay for services.
No, it does not.
You can't have it both ways.
We have, I don't know that I'm going to win this conversation at 11 o'clock at night. We've had this conversation a number of times. Again, this is long-term fiscal policy, and obviously it is up to the Common Council as to whether to create or not create TID districts. In my professional fiscal opinion, for an urbanized community like the city of Racine, this is one of the best things you can do for the long-term stabilization of the fiscal for the city of Racine and for the growth and revitalization of your neighborhoods. No different than what Kenosha is doing to the south, who has a number of neighborhood TIDs that are very successful and are able to use them for revitalization in their neighborhoods. So that
Okay,
is.
okay,
that is
we
really-
agree to disagree.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your opinion.
Yep.
Okay, so the whole but-for argument that was made and is made is but for these TIDs, the assessed values wouldn't go anywhere. Boom, we're dead in the water. Well, TID 22 and 23 over the last 2 years has gone up 18 and 13%. So the but-for argument is kind of, I disagree with it 100%. I also have a question on, as TID 27 and 28 was passed through committee, it disappeared off the city website. I emailed the development department. They said there were being changes made. It came back and they told me there were some changes. The one change that he identified was they added to that it can be shared. Is it appropriate to change something between committee and common council? It didn't come back as changed or amended. Is that appropriate?
I'll ask Bill to address what may have happened, if anything, between committee and council.
I'm not sure that there was a change made between committee and council. If it was to add language about sharing in there, that may have been an error that was in the first document. Sharing is part of what is typically available in tax districts. I can't answer that directly without a little further information, but I don't know that there was a attempt to change something between committee and council.
Well, it was removed from the city website. I emailed the development department and they said it was removed because something was being changed. And I received an email back stating that it was added, the sharing aspect of it.
So I don't know what happened with the email or the website. I do know when it went before the joint review board, sharing was discussed as part of the plan that they approved and forwarded on to PhD. So I can't tell you specifically what happened in the website, Alder Peterson.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, back to the conditioning and the color coding. My understanding was 50% or more have to be average or worse, not substandard, but average or worse. I believe those were the words that the individual from Dawn from Elders was using, which is very subjective. I sent pictures that show very nice houses as being average. So the whole color coding is very subjective. The majority of the property issues in my district are rental property issues. This does not address that. And $10,000 grant or 5,000 grant, 5,000 matching to a 60 or $70,000 home isn't going to do squat to the improvement of that home. Yeah, it's nice. Or here's 10,000, have your house painted. Here's 10,000. It might do a little for the resale, but it's not going to do hardly anything for the actual increased value of a home. So yeah, everybody loves to give money away and $10,000 away. I'm guessing, the majority of the houses in 27, if you go down by all the green ones are just west of All Saints or Ascension or whatever, and just east of Ascension. They're all green. They're brought in for the sole purpose of creating revenue for the non-green. I have a problem with that. If somebody wants me to help them paint their house, yeah, I'll help you paint your house, but you're not going to get in my pocket to paint your house. I've never viewed property taxes as a venue or an avenue to give money away. Property taxes are for services and infrastructure. To me, every phone call I got one phone call from a lady on Prospect said she'll do anything, whatever can be done, she'll do it. I said, well, you realize that 50% of the properties in your area are rental properties. Is not going to do anything for that. Nothing. If you want, if you want to do something about the rental properties, have a licensing. It's no different than any other business. You go into a rental property, you have to get a license. You have to be permitted for every single rental. I mean, that's the only way you take care of the rental property issue. I could go on and on. Anyway, the majority of the calls I received, as I explained it to people, they were against it. I had one individual who spoke for it, a lady on Prospect. Anything that can be done to improve the neighborhood, fantastic, do it. Like I said, $10,000 on a $60,000 or $70,000 house. And that, I hope every alder looked at this and looked at the color coding, the beginning, the yellows, the greens, the browns, the reds. And at the end, after 27 years, everything's green, everything. It's unrealistic, and to me, it's offensive, and I will be voting against it. I know I'm in the minority, but so be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Peterson. Alder Lemke.
Yeah, I would just like to say that, Kathleen, I really appreciate you, and I think we can vehemently argue points, but I appreciate staff just being treated respectfully, and you're a professional and we should treat you as such, and let's argue the points, but not the people.
Alder Mikva.
Thank you, Your Honor. Alder Lemke, I feel strongly the way you feel. I think we're heading down the wrong path when we're going to completely disregard the professional opinions of staff whose job it is to do the research, provide the data, and make the recommendations on these things that have not just been researched and studied in our communities, but been proven to be effective in other communities in the same exact model that's now being implemented. I think for us to decide that we just don't like something and then argue vehemently and spread disinformation into the community because we just don't understand or agree is irresponsible. And I think that is the disappointing part of the direction that this conversation is going. I think it's really unfortunate that that some alders take the opportunity to try to discredit staff and the work and the professionalism that they bring to their role. I think that we are at a point now in this evening where everybody's patience and energy is severely depleted. So I think maybe that's lending to it. I don't know, but I would just want us to be more thoughtful about this as we move forward and how we are integrating information into our community. If we're going to our constituents and they're saying they don't like it because of an explanation that somebody who is clearly biased about this kind of process is providing, I would argue that maybe there needs to be more information provided that provides the full breadth of the picture here. Connect them to the staff. Give them the opportunity to hear a full explanation from the staff and the team, as Bill Bowers and as Kathleen have been able to provide this evening. I think that I'm tired and I'm feeling frustrated that this is the direction this is going, because this is not the reason that the TID is being created. Some of the accusations that are being made, and I really hope our alders do their research and fully understand what a TID actually means before they come into a meeting and start trying to tear something down that they clearly don't seem to understand. Thank you.
Alder Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'm going, as I've said before, I wear multiple demographic hats: homeowner, alderperson, advocate for my community, as well as the city. First of all, we all have to understand, and I respect it. You know what? I'm probably the oldest person on this call, but I will be at work at 7:45 in the morning. So thank you. I'll leave it at that. At any rate, I will be brief. I was just joking. But we have to understand that we're improving the whole community. The TID improves the community for all citizens, everybody. I don't want to mention a name, but as someone said, a rising tide will rise all ships or boats. We have to look at it that way. There are so many, if you check the state statutes and state laws, there are so many ordinances and laws into place that you can't misuse the monies. It is somewhat of a complicated process, but from the PhD or Planned Heritage and Design Committee, when we look at it, we do take many of these items, all of these items into consideration. Because as you know, I represent District 10. Whatever happens in 28, which is the next item on my list from the PHDC, I have to take into consideration of District 10. On the other hand, and I'm just going to make up a number, I'll be brief. I'm not going to be as rude as I promised. But if District 1 is deteriorating and District 10 is at one point in time increasing in value, eventually District 10 will come down. Now, the other part of that is that we talk about, okay, let's say there's to keep it simple, at almost 11 o'clock in the evening, you have $1,000 house. If that property goes up $10 in value, and we're going to use simple interest here, that's what, $100. That property value is going to go up at assessed value is going to go up $100, whether it's a TID district or not. Would you agree with me? You probably would. 10% of 1,000 is still 100 at 11 o'clock at night. Okay, now I've heard the other issue here. You take that $100 without the TID, you can try to recruit more people for various areas in the our city where we need employees. You might be able to give raises. That $100 is there whether or not you have a TID or not. Would you agree? You agree, right? Now, with the TID, you're saying that money, any additional increase goes toward putting it back into that community. I have not paid any more taxes, right?
Correct.
So all I'm trying to say is that the money goes back into the city no matter how we look at it. And I really apologize if I've taken up too much time, with all due respect. But we need to look at it from that point of view also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Peterson.
Yes, in regards to the implication that I was being disrespectful to Ms. Fisher, I hope that she doesn't think that. I am argumentative. I don't believe I've ever been disrespectful to you. If you feel that way, I apologize, or any of your staff. As far as doing my homework, I've done plenty of my homework. So, if you want to talk about being respectful, be respectful all the way around. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, when the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
No.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Mikma,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Coe, Alder Coe,
Alder Coe has had to leave to go back to work.
Oh.
Alder Jones,
Aye.
Alder Tate II,
Alder Tate is leaving to go to work too. Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
No.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
11 ayes, 2 noes.
Motion carries. Alder Pete, did you want to read the next item for separate consideration?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 067221, subject review and discussion of the proposed establishment of the project plan boundaries and creation of tax incremental district number 28, and consideration of approval and resolution PHDC -21. Recommendation of the Planning and Heritage and Design Commission on 8/25/21 that the resolution establishing the boundaries and approaching the project plan creating tax incremental district number 28 be approved. Physical note, tax incremental district 28 is projected to generate $6,211,647 of increment to fund projects identified in the project plan over the life for a period of 27 years. Thank you.
Alder Pete, would you like to make a motion to approve that item?
I would like to make a motion to approve item number 0672-21.
Second.
Seconded by Alder Tate the second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing no further discussion, when the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
No.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Mikva,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Jones.
Aye.
Alder Tate the second,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
No.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
11 ayes, 2 noes.
That motion carries. We now move on to the Office of the Mayor report by Alder Tate the second. Just one consideration we may need to do is to defer now Alder McCarthy's reappointment to the Wastewater Commission as we research how many alders we can have on water and wastewater. But Alder Tate the second, are there items for separate consideration?
Well, as a matter of practice, so we always take up appointments separately. I do believe you want to split the question and defer the appointment to the citizen appointment of the Waterworks Commission for further evaluation and determination. So I will read off the ones that I think would be appropriate to adopt. I believe Alder Peterson asked for separate consideration, but it was to address exactly what you addressed. So Alder Peterson, do you still want to pull that out separately, or can I just proceed with reading off the ones that aren't the Water Commission appointee? Citizen appointee.
Continue with what you're going to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so item 0763-21, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason, appointing the following: Alder Tate II to the Waterworks Commission expiring in September 2022. Alder Taft to the Waterworks Commission for a term expiring in September 22. Paul Warnholt to the Waterworks Commission as an alternate to the mayor for a term expiring in September 2022. Alder Tate II to the Wastewater Commission for a term expiring in September 22. Alder Taft to the Wastewater Commission for a term expiring in September 22. Paul Warnholt to the Wastewater Commission as an alternate for the mayor, well, as an alternate period, for a term expiring in September 22, and Rebecca Stroman to the Police and Fire Commission for a term expiring in April 2026. Move to approve those appointees as read.
Without objection. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, it's a motion, not a, there's a second needed. Thank you, Alder Jones. Sorry, it's getting late. Any further discussion on those appointments? Seeing none, when the clerk.
For a point of order, I'm sorry, a point of clarity.
Yep.
parliamentary question. I guess in practice, I'm trying to separate the question, but I haven't made that particular motion. Is that necessary for me to do before we do that, or can we proceed as I've kind of indicated at this point?
Yeah, I mean, for Attorney Letney, could you give some guidance here if there's a way to do this just in one motion where we say we're approving all these and deferring this one? Can we do that in one motion, or does that need to be in two? Or
Well,
Alder Tate, maybe I'm asking it wrong. Do you specifically want them to be two separate motions?
I'm checking if I can proceed as we are right now with approving the ones that I've read and then subsequently coming up and saying defer the one that I didn't, or do I have to, prior to doing that, separate the question?
You can do it the way you've done it because you were very clear about which ones you were moving to approve.
Okay, great. Then we may proceed with the question.
All right. And barring any further discussion, when the clerk calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Rouse,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
Aye.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Meekma,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Jones,
Aye.
Alder Tate II,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
Aye.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
There'd be 13 ayes.
And then secondly, move to defer the appointments of Terry McCarthy to the Wastewater Commission as a citizen for a term expiring in September 2025.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Jones. Thank you. Any further discussion on that motion?
My name is on there twice for water, wastewater and water. Should those both be deferred?
I believe they
I only see
should.
one. Am I missing one? I only see one.
I see two
There-
on my agenda.
Well, see, there's the one and then it says an extra recommendation separately. So that's what threw me off. Okay. So move to defer. That's what's throwing me off. One is a set of, is the subject. The other is a separate recommendation. So I guess it's supposed to be in the above section. Is that what happened here?
I don't know exactly, but
No.
I think if you just made the motion to defer his appointment to both water and wastewater, it would be in order.
All right. Was Attorney Letney gonna say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's two different paths for citizen members to get appointed to wastewater commission or to waterworks commission. And waterworks commission, they're actually elected by the common council, not appointed by the mayor. So that's why they're separated out. But if you wanted to defer both of them, we can sort it out in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Then so move to defer both citizen appointments to the wastewater and the waterworks commission.
And I believe it was seconded by Alder Jones. Any discussion? Alder Perez.
Alderman McCarthy, isn't he currently on the water or wastewater, and this would be a reappointment? Does that mean that he's no longer appointed until we figure this out?
So all the appointments for water and wastewater to be reapproved happen to fall on this particular meeting, right? And then by coincidence, this is also the day that we are, that the council has reappointed Alder McCarthy to once again be an alder. We just need to suss out, I need to figure out if it's statutory or ordinance or part of the intergovernmental agreements we have with our neighbors. But there are, I believe, limits on the number of alders that are allowed to be on these commissions. And so we need some time to suss that out. And we didn't know for certain what the outcome would be with Alder McCarthy's appointment. Had he not been appointed, we certainly would have enjoyed his continued service on water and wastewater. So it's a bit of a confluence of and coincidence of timing on those two things, Alder Perez.
Which begs my question, is he then no longer on until we figure it out?
That is technically true. We are not reappointing him tonight. However, we will have one more council meeting before either of the commissions meet again. Attorney Letney.
I was just gonna say, these are some committees are like this and some aren't. These are ones that allow a member to stay on until a successor is approved. So, and I know there's no meetings of either of these commissions before the next council meeting, but Alder McCarthy can stay on until his successor is approved. So we're okay.
Any other questions before we go to the vote? When the clerk calls your name, please vote on this deferral as you wish.
Alder Rose,
Aye.
Alder Perez,
Yes.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder Mikma,
Aye.
Alder Lemke,
Aye.
Alder Jones,
Aye.
Alder Tate II,
Aye.
Alder Caprillion,
Aye.
Alder Peterson,
Aye.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder McCarthy,
Aye.
Alder Pete.
Aye.
13 ayes.
The motion carries. That now moves us on to the consent agenda. At this time, President Tate, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve expeditiously.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder McCarthy. Everyone could unmute themselves briefly. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda now passes. Common Council announcements are up next. Just as a reminder, they are limited to recognition of city residents and employees, memorials, and non-political community events. Discussion of matters related to government business is prohibited. Are there any announcements?
Good to be back.
If I had one, I forgot what they were.
So I just want to thank everyone for their patience. I also want to compliment the staff for their hard work in preparing everything from development to TIDS from the beginning and the end of the agenda. We literally couldn't do it without you. I think there was an announcement that I was going to make, but I am too tired to remember what it is. So my apologies to whomever I forgot to acknowledge.
Oh,
Well, welcome back, McCarthy.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Real quickly.
Oh,
just
sure.
a
Alder,
reminder, all alders are invited to participate in the ad hoc redistricting committee tomorrow night, where we start in earnest our redistricting and reapportionment process. So please come on through.
All right. Thank you for the reminder. Any other announcements? Seeing none at this time, Alder West, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to go to bed.
The motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned, everyone. Be safe and sleep well.
Good night.